is going to be an especially juicy one. I'm Leila Barker of Lucky Break Consulting, and this is Brickhouse Branding. You and I are tag teaming our way through module number 3, and this video in particular is all about the infinitely powerful About page. This page is magical in so many ways, but it's often underutilized, and I really look forward to helping you unleash its power and put it to work for you. Specifically in this video, I'm going to share with you the importance of the About page and how powerful it can actually be as a sales tool. I'll also teach you about the building blocks of a successful page, the do's and don'ts of About pages. I'll teach you how to prioritize your content, and then I'm going to do a pretty insightful and detailed dissection of Lucky Break's About page. I hope that you enjoy that piece of the curriculum. We're continuing to work through that Module 3 workbook and checking off all the boxes for our Module 3 progress tracker. There is, of course, a new worksheet. It's called the About Page Audit. You're really going to want to spend some time with that one. I'll tell you more about it before I wrap up this video. The most important thing that I want to impress upon you for this particular video is that your brand identity includes you, my friend. So many of us are really hesitant to put ourselves face forward. We like to sort of lurk in the shadows. We want the card or the piece of jewelry or the ceramic or the bar of soap to be the star of the show. And I hear you and I understand where that reluctance comes from. But if we think of your brand as a teeter-totter on the playground, you are the fulcrum. You are what makes it all move, especially as a maker or artisan product designer. So we're going to have to pull you out of those shadows, dust you off, and get you confident and powerful, because people buy products from people, not from companies. So this is where, again, you have a tremendous leg up and advantage on all those other corporate companies that are basically faceless identities. We don't know the people who make our products most of the time. We know who makes this bar of soap, this card, this pair of earrings, right? And we want to put you front and center and really build that connection with your customer. It is virtually impossible to overstate the importance of your About page to retail consumers, to store buyers, and to media professionals as well. This page announces to the world who you are and what it is you do. And interestingly enough, data suggests that this is the second most visited page of any website. In fact, it trails only behind the home or landing page. So most people may come into your website from the home page, meaning that they perhaps have a card or a piece of packaging that actually has your web URL on it, or the landing page. The landing page is the entry page that people come in on if they've been searching in a search engine, or they found you through some indirect means. The landing page is the page that they actually come into the website on. Home and landing always take top position, but studies consistently suggest that the About page is the second most visited site. The way that I think of it is when I come into your website, it's sort of like inviting myself into your home. And it's super, super awkward for me to pop off my shoes and plop down on your couch and put my feet up on your coffee table and, pour myself a glass of wine and grab some cocktail peanuts and hang out in your house when I haven't yet introduced myself to you. I mean, that's really awkward, right? And a good website is a fairly intimate experience. People want to know who you are, who owns this little corner of the web, and why am I here? So your About page is your opportunity to tell them and share those things. Approximately 80% of all web visitors come to your About page. So 8 out of 10 people who land on your site end up on this page, and they usually head directly there, again, after the home page or the landing page that they came in on. This is where you can give users a peek into the heart and soul of your brand. But far too often, I see brand owners who aren't putting their best foot forward in this uber important space. Your story is what drives modern consumers to hit the add to cart button. It's what compels store buyers to reach out and request more information about your products. It's the catalyst that sparks an editor to include your products in an upcoming feature. Storytelling, I know you've heard me say it again before, and I'm going to say it again too. Storytelling is the currency of the modern economy. It's everything. And yet many brand owners have a very anemic About page that's not doing our brand any justice. Today, I really want to work on changing that for you. So I have a package of building blocks for your successful About page. They begin with your headshot and related images. your business story, your social proof, and your brand manifesto. I'll tell you how we can weave all of these pieces together as we continue to walk through this video together. The most important thing for you to remember, though, is that though this is your about page, it isn't all about you. Remember, we've been talking about putting the MVP, that ideal customer, as the centerpiece of every piece of content that we write. And the last video, I talked to you about really making your customer the hero of the story. So again, your brand is the mentor, your product is the tool, but the hero is the customer. And your brand is designed to help them get from point A to point B. That's the kind of tone and content that we're looking to build on this all-important about page. So yes, we're certainly going to be talking about you on your about page, but it's not all going to be about you. When I look at the about pages of many brand owners and product designers, here's what I see. Either there's no about page at all, or there's an about page that doesn't even have a picture and has maybe one or two paragraphs and everything is sort of referenced in the third person. So it sounds like somebody else wrote the about page and there's really no ability to connect. Or brand owners who have 14 paragraphs and 18 pictures, but none of it talks about the customer or what the brand is about. It's just, again, every single thing that happened at that business. All of these are getting the giant red X from me, like the buzzer, if you will. If you think of it as a game show, they're getting the Nope, we're not doing that anymore. We're going to talk about you, but we're going to bring your customer forward for this entire page. As you'll soon discover, I have lots and lots and lots of thoughts about how I want your about page to be unpacked. First and foremost is just that I need you to have the actual about page. When I work with new clients, I'm continually stunned by how many people didn't think to include this or knew that they should include it, but it was uncomfortable, so they just skipped it all together. You must have an about page. It is in no way optional for any maker, artisan, product-centric, design-centric brand on the planet. We've got to have the about page. And even more than that, we've got to call it something that is painfully obvious. This section of your website should be easily recognizable, and preferably, I really want that About tab in the main navigation menu. This is an important piece. Again, 80% of site visitors will make their way there, so we don't want to hide the About tab in the footer of your website. Remember, too, that whenever we can have clarity and cleverness together, that's a beautiful thing. But we can never sacrifice clarity at the altar of cleverness. So we need to make sure that the About page is readily identifiable as the About page. On the Lucky Break website, mine is called Meet Leela. It's a little bit juicier than About, but it's still painfully obvious what that page is going to detail. I also want you to use your first name and preferably your last name as well. If you believe that anonymity still exists on the internet, then I have some rather disheartening news for you. But anonymity has long since disappeared. There are companies that do nothing but mine public records for data and then post it on the internet about you. I know that that's disconcerting. I find them hella creepy too. But the fact is, anonymity doesn't really exist anymore. And so if that's what's driving the desire to hide your last name, I hope that you will abandon it. It is, however, incredibly crucial that you at least use your first name. If you want to argue with me about last names, I will totally let you omit that. My preference is that you use your first and last, but it's non-negotiable to use that first name. You really need to build that connection with your customer. I also want you to speak in a voice which is in harmony with the rest of your website. We spent all of Module 2 developing a strong, recognizable brand voice, and I want you to bring that brand voice over to this content. There's something funny that happens. We're happy to write about our products, but then when we have to write about ourselves, we get squeamish and uncomfortable. And sometimes we slip into this totally foreign voice that doesn't match everything else on the site. I read it, and it's really easy to recognize that when it's happening. Make sure that this page is sculpted into the same brand voice as everything else on your website. That consistency and that harmony breeds familiarity, which also breeds trust. And trust is so incredibly important. I also want you to include a headshot. We have to put you forward on this page. I would rather have 1,000 Mack trucks run over me in succession I'd rather do that than pose for a photo shoot. They are terribly, tragically uncomfortable for me. And yet I have learned that when I put myself forward in my business, I make more money. So this is a hump that we all have to find a way to get over. I do have some thoughts about prepping for a headshot. I'll share those with you in Module 5 when we get to visuals. But just know that I'm not giving you a free pass on putting a good picture of yourself on this page. I'm not suggesting that you have to call the makeup crew and the hair salon and you have to tan for 2 weeks before and you have to apply the fake eyelashes. You can go to that extreme if you want, but it's not necessary. What is necessary is a professional looking photo of your beautiful face on that website. It too is a non-negotiable. I also give heavy bonus points to brands who show pictures of their creation process. The creation process is you making product. So if you are a soap maker, that might be fresh soap poured into a loaf mold and you have a spatula and you're swirling those tops or you're sprinkling botanicals down the middle. If you are a stationer, it might be you at the letterpress machine, right? Physically making that card and doing the imprinting. If you're a jewelry maker, this might be you melting metal, or it might be you with jewelry pliers attaching a clasp or something with a jump ring. But whatever it is, however you make your products, we want to tell that story in pictures. Pictures are incredibly powerful and people look at them before they read. Sometimes we can have a wall of text and people's eyes just glaze over and they sort of tune out. If we can have a couple of pictures of the creation process embedded there, people can very quickly wrap their minds around your creation process without having to do any reading at all. It's a beautiful thing. I also want you to show off your family, your staff, and your pets. We want to know who else is connected to this brand, who else is in your life, who else are we supporting when we support this cause or buy this product. If you are feeling trepidatious about putting pictures of your family up, I feel you, sister, especially if your last name is on that page. But there are some innovative ways that you can get around that. For instance, you could create caricatures of your children and put them up instead of their actual pictures. Or you could have the children draw a picture of themselves. That's incredibly endearing and heartwarming. And use their drawings as their portfolio or profile picture. Lots of innovative ways that you can get to that. But show the teammates, the other people that work for your company. Show your partner or your spouse. Show your children and your pets. It again helps to breed that familiarity and that trust that is so incredibly important. I'm not done yet. I have even more about page do's for you. Make sure that you speak in the first person. We want to address the reader in the first person as you as well. This simple trick eliminates the invisible barrier that naturally exists between you and the reader. That builds commonality and creates intimacy. So I never refer to myself as Leila Barker when I'm writing about myself, right? I'm me. And when I talk to my readers, they're never my readers or my customers or my clients. They're you. I'm trying to help you envision yourself in the seat as a customer at my table. So I am I, you are you. Dispose of all the other formalities. I want you to make sure that you tell a story and show your personality. We really want to work on being interesting. We cultivated a strong, recognizable brand voice in Module 2. We're going to bring that forward, and then we're going to tell a story that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. We talked about that in the first video here in Module 3. It's not all the stuff that happened to your brand, it's the story of your brand. Tell that with some succinct clarity. It will serve you very well. Make sure that you're showing your brand personality. We worked on that in Module 2 as well. I had you pick 6 adjectives that really embodied the personality of the brand. Make sure when you read this page, gut check it and ensure that you are personifying, embodying the personality that you crafted for the company. And by all means, please be interesting. You have an interesting life. I promise that you do, even if you don't feel like you do. But people are fascinated by makers and artisans. We want to bring that forward for them. Also, include any credentials, press, testimonials, awards, anything like that helps to build your credibility. This is something that we call social proof, and I'm going to address it a little bit further in this video, but I just want to plant the seed that we want to position you and showcase you as a leader in your community and in your company. So anytime your brand has been in the media, anytime somebody has said nice things about your brand, any awards that you've won, all of that helps to build the credibility piece. Also, do get personal, but not too personal. There's a fine line between personal and private. The goal should be to give readers a really honest peek behind the brand itself without, and this is important, making them feel like they just experienced a TMI, too much information moment. It's a fine balance sometimes. If you're worried about whether you've unknowingly crossed that personal versus private barrier, then ask a few people to read your page and just give you their honest opinion. And make certain that at least a few of those reviewers aren't people who have come through your birth canal, nor people you lay your head next to each night. I love partners and spouses. I love mothers, but their opinions are not exactly what we call unbiased. So make sure that when you're talking about hard things, that you're doing that in a way that doesn't make other people squeamish or isn't overly depressing or sad. Certainly, you can share the struggles of your life. The brand So Worth Loving, who I've shared with you earlier in this module, talks about very hard things in a way that's a gut punch to the gut. It sort of sucks the air out of your lungs. But the writing is done in a way that is empowering, not something that leaves you feeling really sorry for someone. I actually have a brand that is 7 figures, and they make chicken treats out of California. And the owner is an ex-convict. She's a felon, and she's happy to tell you that story. But the reason that it works is because, one, she's telling you that story because she employs other convicts. It's a rehabilitation program and part of her mission as a company. But number 2, the reason that it works is because it is being shared with you in a way that is sort of in the rear view mirror. It's behind her. You know that she's come out the other side and she's successful, which means it has less impact and it's a bit more inspiring, if you will. Remember that the goal should be to give your readers an honest peek, but not a TMI moment. Also include an email opt-in form. If readers have read all the way to the bottom of your About page, they're heavily invested in your brand. That's the most opportune time to reach out your hand and say, "Hi, I'd like to stay connected." And we can stay connected through my email newsletter and my blog. Here's how you can make sure that you're getting that information. So email opt-in forms on About pages are one of the highest converting spots. In other words, most people who read that page will enter their email address into the opt-in form if you've done a good job of storytelling. And last but not least, also make sure that you're linking internally and using key search terms. By linking internally, I mean this is an SEO building tip. We want to take your website and link to other pages on your website. Google gets really excited when it sees that your site contains a network of links to itself. When you reference a product or a blog post or another page of your website, don't just mention it, link to it, and that will keep the Google gods happy. When I say key search terms, I'm talking about rich keywords here. Make a list of keywords that your target audience might type into Google to find you. And then your job is to thoughtfully weave these keywords into the text of your About page. Now, here's a big asterisk and caveat. Avoid assembling those words into a list or inserting them in a way that reads artificial and sort of weird. You're writing for the reader. But to the degree that you can write for the reader and also include keywords, you will do a better job in search engine optimization. Your goal should always be to write with intention and include these words very, very organically. Incorporating them into the page helps to optimize your website for those search engines, making it easier for your peeps to find you. I also have some About page don'ts. I want to help you avoid some common missteps. They are easy enough to avoid once you know the location of the landmines. Let's start with not relying exclusively on video. You can't expect a video to do the heavy lifting for you. Brand videos make a lovely addition to an otherwise robust About page, but they cannot be the alpha and the omega of the page itself. Google needs words to sink its teeth into, and your site is going to suffer. It's going to take a hit on its SEO if you rely exclusively on a video to do all the work for you. And here's another thing to consider. Site visitors who are browsing the internet while at work. Oh, stop. We've all done it. People who are browsing the internet while they're at work won't be able to hit play on that video without audibly alerting all of the coworkers around their cubicle to the fact that they are wandering around the internet, which means that they will need to take a pass on watching it for now, and they may not ever remember to hop back on your page once they're kicking it at their crib after hours, so you lose them indefinitely. You need to be able to take full advantage of the eyeballs that you have on your site while you have them. I also want you to carefully curate your content to avoid droning on and on. Mindfully and intentionally edit this page to remove any extraneous tidbits and ensure that everything that's left supports one carefully constructed storyline. Also, don't forget to include a call to action. We're going to give people an invitation to dive deeper into our brand, into their connection with us towards the end of the page. Examples are coming up in just a few. Don't show readers your hands or your tools to the exclusion of your face. While I love images of the creation process, I need to see your eyeballs and your pearly whites to build connection. So yes to those process shots. Yes to a picture of your workshop if you'd like to include it. Yes, certainly to finished product images. But you need to make absolutely certain that your pretty face is in that mix as well. And don't write without a goal in mind. Remember your ideal customer, that MVP, and peer at this page through their lens, through their glasses. As best as you can, project yourself outside of your body, beam yourself into their brains, and look at the text and images that comprise your About page through the eyes of the MVP. I know you've heard me say that before, but I literally cannot state it enough. But successful About pages are more than just about the content itself. They also focus on the order of the content, prioritizing key content at the top so that it's more likely to be seen. I want you to funnel all the content on this page, and here's my recipe for doing that successfully. Always open with an attention grabber. This section appears at the tip top of your About page and is designed to capture attention and raise interest. Very often, this is a quote that is physically larger than all the other text on the page and potentially displayed in a different font as well. When you are crafting this content, think along the lines of a bold declaration, a statement that piques interest or establishes commonality between you and the reader. Or perhaps it's even a quote that personifies the essence of your brand. If you need some quote inspiration, my favorite place to head for that on the internet is called Brainy Quote, BRAINY, brainyquote.com. After that attention grabber is the body. This is the real meat of the About page. This building block is designed to introduce who you are and paint a picture of what drives you to create this work. This is an opportunity to share your business story, to build some commonality, and to express your values. Then we're going to have an invitation. As we continue down the page, this is an ideal spot for including a summons, something that's designed to draw the reader deeper into interaction with your brand. This call to action might be an offer to join your mailing list, an invitation to hit the highlights of your blog. Maybe you include the 5 most popular posts, or this could be a list of your best-selling products. No matter what form your invitation ultimately takes, the invitation should be a rolling out of the red carpet for the people who have read this far down the page, and you want to encourage them to take the next step with you. Then we have the tail. This is a prime opportunity for really dialing up the personality and having some fun with the page. The tail contains interesting information that the committed reader will really enjoy, but it is not critical to understanding the brand. The tail appears near the bottom of the page, and it should serve as an addendum to the core information found inside that body. It is designed to highlight the especially human side of you and your brand. The section often highlights something funny or a heartwarming story. Have you ever seen something along the line of 10 funny things you might not know about me? If so, you've borne witness to the interesting tale of a well-built About page. Next up on your content funnel is social proof. This establishes credibility, and it's one of the primary goals of an about page is to build that credibility between you and your reader. One of the most efficient mechanisms for creating credibility is through the presentation of evidence that your work is meaningful for other people, and you can accomplish that in lots of different ways. Again, it could be press mentions, customer testimonials, awards that you've won, or even a list of well-known retail partners, well-known stores that carry your products. Social proof typically appears after the tale that I just described. And finally, there's this imagery piece. People really, really want to see you. No matter how uncomfortable you are on camera, you have to stretch outside all of your traditional comfort zones and capture imagery of yourself to share with your readers. And don't forget, pictures of your creation process or your finished products definitely count as well, but they do not give you a free pass on showing your actual face. You can sprinkle this imagery throughout the page, and the idea is that it helps to break up big blocks of text and build visual resonance as well. When creating a blueprint for your page, imagine the content as the funnel shown on your screen. Few readers may read the whole page in its entirety, so it's important for you to perch the most critical information with the widest appeal near the top of the page. And then you just continue unpacking as the page progresses, and you're infusing it with interesting information that's designed to keep that reader engaged. Here's my roadmap for building an about page strategically. The first question is always, how do you want your readers to feel? We talked about that emotional resonance in Module 2, and we're going to carry it through for the entire rest of Brickhouse Branding. Never start writing without thinking about how you want your readers to feel. That helps you to set a guidepost that informs the rest of the writing process. Then ask, what makes your brand different? That's that core conversation. We're also bringing it forward. It definitely has a place of prominence at the table on your about page. I also want you to research, look at other great about pages, and take really fantastically good notes. Your about page audit, the worksheet that's attached to this video, has a list of brands with stellar about pages. Sometimes I think it's very, very helpful to immerse yourself in the study of people who are doing it well. We don't want to copy them, certainly, but we can be inspired, and they can help us think about things in a different way and get those creative juices flowing. It's incredibly important. I want you to open with that bold opening statement or the captivating quote. Remember, that's your attention grabber. Then you're going to tell the reader who you are and what you do. That's the body of the page itself. And you're also going to, in that same section, explain how you got here and why you do what you do. So this is the business story and the passion story all fused together. Sprinkled into that page in various points will be social proof. Again, those are the bits and pieces that build your credibility as a brand and brand owner. We're going to make sure that your personality is palpable here. Really, really turn up the volume, right? Stomp that gas and let's get going. We want to have a headshot of your staff or your family and that creation process. And then remember, the invitation to dive deeper is always what's found at the bottom of the About page. As you dig into your About page audit worksheet, you will notice that I've included links to dozens, yes, dozens of really stellar About pages. But I wanted to bring forward one of my favorites for us to dissect here together. This is from Bird and Bell. They are a design studio. They make very simple, modern accessories for technology gadgets. Things like mouse pad covers and laptop sleeves, that sort of thing. They've done very, very well for themselves. And I believe that one of the reasons that they've done well for themselves is that they're so deliciously clear and yet succinct. So this is their About page. You can explore the link at your leisure. Again, it's on the About page audit. Ready when you are. What I love most about Bird and Bell is that the very top of the page contains 2 images of the creation process. You can see hands literally hand dyeing leather. And there's not a big round of polish on this either. They're not trying to make everything Instagram perfect. That is a very messy cup of dye on the right-hand side. I love, too, how they talk about their mission. Here it is on the page. I'm going to blow it up and make it just a little bit easier for us to read. They say, in this studio, we believe in craft. We believe that attention to detail is more than a focusing of the eyes. It's a frame of mind. We count stitches. We hone skills. We have high standards and low tolerances. We believe that being makers makes us better designers. Simple is beautiful. Service is paramount. Work is good. Small is awesome. There's definitely some tones of brand manifesto in that content. It's a rallying cry, a big assertion of what they believe in the world. And notice that those sentences towards the end are literally 3 words long. No need to get fluffy. Cut to the heart of it and make it meaningful. As you proceed down the page, you can see that the products are designed here, they are made here, and they are shipped from here. Again, reinforcing that this is a cottage company, that you're connecting directly with the brand owner, that there's a love of craft and an attention to detail. As you continue to move down the page, you can meet your maker. This is Angie Davis. She's the designer, maker, and studio runner. It says that Angie started in 2008 and walks the line between maker and designer. She has a degree in architecture and practiced for several years before starting the studio. Her favorite color is gray. And that's sort of funny because everything on the website is gray. So it's a little bit of a ha-ha and irony if you know Bird and Bell. As you continue moving down that page, progressing and unpacking their content, they're careful to include social proof. And it's pretty impressive social proof. Keep in mind, this is an indie startup brand, started just like you did, but they do have a few years head start on you. They've landed features in the New York Times, Fast Company Inc., GQ, Remodelista, some really prominent blogs and magazines, Apartment Therapy, Pioneer Press, and Etsy as well. One of my favorite features is the special thanks section at the bottom of the page. They individually thank and link to people who have been very helpful in their business. And my favorite piece of that is special thanks to everyone who has ever said, you should check out Bird and Bell. It's personal, but it lets you know that they salute their readers. They appreciate their recommendations. It makes you more likely to tell other people that they should check out Bird and Bell. Now, I have another very careful dissection of an about page. And as I was thinking of an about page that all of the people in Brickhouse Branding might be familiar with, I had a hard time coming up with brands that you would all be familiar with, but I do know that you know my brand because you're in this class. So I'm going to walk you through the Lucky Break about page, step by step, piece by piece. I think it's a great way to end this video and show you how I've woven all of the concepts that I teach about proper about page construction and pull them into my own about page as well. I am definitely walking my walk, not just talking my talk. Here's how I do that. When you land on the Lucky Break about page, you'll notice that my picture is front and center, prime real estate right up top. Now, in the interest of full disclosure, I am not being melodramatic when I tell you that having my picture taken is my least favorite part of running a business. I think I'd almost rather fire people than have my picture taken. That's a true story, especially in a setting like this. I was literally in a beautiful garden next to the governor's mansion in South Carolina. There were lots of people watching us, including security guards who watched the entire photo shoot. I had 2 cocktails before this photo shoot, and I had Jay-Z pumping in the background to sort of pump me up. I know that getting your picture taken is uncomfortable. I still encourage all of us to push past it anyway. I've got some fun, cheeky personality showing right off the top. I'm holding a banner that says Fire Starter, and then we had some hand lettering done it so that it reads, I'm a fire starter. And you'll notice that I open with an attention grabber up top. There's an opening quote that is physically larger than everything else on the page. It's designed to capture your attention, immediately build commonality, and get you to continue reading. Really quick, I want you to remember something. On my website, I'm selling me. My brain and my experience is my product. But even then, I have tapped emotion. I have laced the page with keywords. I am telling a story, and I have embodied emotional triggers that make my customers feel immediately connected. So please don't think, well, gosh, that works for a service business, but not for my business. The same concepts that I'm teaching you, I have applied to my service-based business. So here's that opening attention grabber. If you're here, chances are good that somewhere along your entrepreneurial journey, you've been overwhelmed, exhausted, or frustrated. Hell, you might have been all 3. And you've probably flown by the seat of your pants for much of that time, crossing your fingers that you're making the right decisions to grow your passion-fueled business into a sustainable brand. I've been there myself. My aim here is to build commonality, to let you know that I understand where you are right now. And you might be a little curious about the inclusion of the word hell. That's actually very intentional. I do some mild cursing in the Lucky Break brand, mostly because I do curse in real life, so it's very authentic, but also, and more importantly, because I think it signals to people that I'm real, that this is not business in a formal, polished sort of way. This is really climbing into the trenches with you and doing business in the real world. So that hell is a very mild curse word that doesn't offend many people. And if they are offended by that word, they probably will be offended by everything that comes after that word in all of my classes. So this serves as a bit of a filter for me. Again, if this is a turnoff to you immediately, I would rather you know that I'm that kind of brand right up front before you give me your money than have you discover that I'm that kind of brand after you give me your money and then you pitch a fit and have a protest. So the use of the word hell is very, very intentional. I'm infusing the brand with personality. I'm creating a filter, if you will, and I'm establishing that commonality. Then we move into the body of the page. This is no longer the attention grabber, so it's not larger in size than the rest of the content. Here's what I say next. I know that building a business isn't for the meek. It takes courage, ambition, and tenacity, and I'm willing to bet that you have each of those in spades. But it also takes patience, wisdom, and strategy. While those assets aren't as intuitive or accessible for many creatives, they're the essential building blocks for both short-term and long-term success. What am I doing here? I'm saluting my clients. I credit what they have intuitively, and I point out what they typically don't have in a way that's very non-threatening. And I reinforce that what they probably don't have is pivotal to their success as a brand. So I'm building that credibility, holding a mirror up on themselves, and building connection all the way around. My name is Layla Barker, and I foster emerging creative brands by infusing their passion with the experience, critical thinking, and strategic tools needed to evolve the passion into a sustainable business. I work with makers and product designers on the move, jewelers, stationers, ceramicists, apparel and accessory designers, apothecary brands, and some of the best damn gourmet food companies on the planet. What's happening there? I'm introducing myself as the solution to the problem, and I'm immediately reassuring them that these people are my people by calling out the specific product categories that I work with. If you're saying, gosh, I'm an apothecary brand, I wonder if she works with us, or gosh, I know she works with a lot of apothecary brands, but I'm a jeweler. Does she work with me? This answers that question immediately. I founded my first company, an apothecary brand named Bella Luce, more than a decade ago. I concede that I had absolutely no idea what I was doing at the time. None. I made some intensely painful mistakes along the way. The kind that set my confidence back a few steps, the kind with zeros on the end, and the kind whose ripples I felt for years afterward. I also enjoyed a degree of success that I could never have imagined when I founded the company as a single mama of 2 toddlers. The kind that's reflected in a well-worn passport. The freedom to design your future and the confidence of knowing that you can achieve absolutely anything that you put your mind to. This is the simplest version of my story. Remember, we've been talking about the stuff that happens versus the story. In 15 years of business, there's a lot of stuff that happened that didn't make it into that final draft. But I'm trying to distill everything down to essence and narrate it in a way that both communicates what I ultimately offer, which are the keys to success, while also helping the reader to see themselves in my journey, further establishing commonality and speaking to my personal experience. Remember, always holding up a mirror to your audience and reflecting them back onto themselves. The Lucky Break About page continues. I launched Lucky Break to support my friends, colleagues, and the maker community. It's my way of investing in this community and sharing all the hard-won lessons learned during my journey. Collectively, we're doing some revolutionary work, reinventing manufacturing with an artisanal, small batch approach, democratizing retail, and creating innovative customer experiences fueled by authentic stories. This is the why of my brand. This is my passion and my business story woven together. I also fill this paragraph with keywords that I think will tickle the search engines and help my people find me. What are those words? I talk about reinventing manufacturing, artisanal, small batch, democratizing retail. All of these things are things that might be put into Google when people are searching about product categories that I serve. Today's makers and creative entrepreneurs are offering so much more than a product. We're sharing soul and passion and purpose, neatly delivered via meaningful products designed for and often created with our own hands. But many of us are walking the entrepreneurial path alone, spinning our wheels, burning ourselves out, and missing key opportunities. I'm again packing this content with keywords, makers, creative entrepreneurs, that sort of thing. I'm also continuing to build that emotional connection. My MVP right about now should be shaking their head, nodding and going, yeah, gosh, this definitely feels like me. Lucky Break is the embodiment of everything I wish I had known when I founded my first company. It's an opportunity to avoid the pitfalls, frustrations, and resource drains that too often ambush the journey. It's a chance to get things right the first time, or reinvent what's not working and build a brand with strong architecture at its core and a gorgeous vision to share with the world. I created these products and services because I'm intimately familiar with the kind of work you do, and I know how to make that work more efficient, less painful, and heaps more rewarding. I want you to strut into your next pitch, whether it be to an editor, to a buyer, or to a vendor, feeling confident, empowered, and prepared. I want you to know the answers to their questions before they even ask. I want you to be able to communicate your passion so elegantly that it makes them weak in the knees. I want you to sell more and sleep better at night. I'm showing this customer the potential after of working me. The result, the proof really is in the pudding. This is what Lucky Break is going to do for you. These are the product benefits and emotional benefits that brands will see when we work together. Who doesn't want to work more efficiently, sleep better at night, and make more money, right? I invite you to put on a pot of tea or pour yourself a glass of wine, Malbec for me, please, and make yourself right at home. It's my wish that Lucky Break nourishes both your intellect and your heart, empowering you to put more beauty out into the world while creating a life you love. I'll be cheering you on every step of the way. That's a nice closing and an invitation to stay and play on the website for a while. Because trust is so paramount in my business, I go on to share a much more nuanced version of my story below that text-based version. Essentially, what I did is I took pictures from my past and I interspersed them with morsels from my entrepreneurial journey and built a visual timeline. Below that, I put silly facts about me, again presented in a very visual format, to build connection and trust and to give insight into my personality. And then below that, I do an email opt-in plus a call to action. This is a much more robust about page than most about pages you're probably familiar with. In case you're wondering, there's the timeline. It goes all the way from 1976 when I was born. That's my mother eating tea and biscuit. It's probably a pot brownie, all truth be told, in the ashram of the cult that we lived in. Literally, we lived in a commune. So it's a very interesting picture of my mother. I talk about in 1982, I'm in my brownie uniform and I'm learning to sling brownies. It was my first introduction to a hustler, all the way down to starting Lucky Break and Bella Luce and all the tales from my travel. It's, again, a lot of information, but I think I get a pass because it's presented in a very visual format. It's interactive. You can roll over those hexagons and get an explanation or a caption of what the picture is all about. And the key elements of the story are much more succinctly presented in the body of the page. In case you were wondering, this is my fun little tale, all the interesting information that's presented about me in a visual format. Like, I've never missed a single episode of Project Runway. I've jumped out of a perfectly good airplane 8 times, and I've filled 13,310 wholesale orders. My invitation to dive deeper comes in the form of my 5 best blog posts, and then there's an email opt-in invitation at the bottom. Now it's time for you to get to work on your About page, my friend. I put together a very meaty worksheet called the About Page Audit. It's designed to help you build a magical About page that is insightful, friendly, and compelling to boot. You can begin by printing one copy. I want you to pull up the current version of your About page and work through each question to create a checklist of adjustments that need to be made. So this worksheet is a series of prompts that will help you to identify the weaknesses in the current page so that you can revisit and fortify them. Also included on that worksheet is a list of stellar About pages. Don't miss those. I want you to study some good ones before you start revising your own. One more video to go and you are home free here in Module 3. You're doing great work. I know this is heady stuff and a very comprehensive and complex way of looking at your About page. But again, this is your introduction to the world. It's where you get to hold your microphone and grip it the tightest and turn the volume up the loudest. So it's an opportunity we really want to maximize. I'm looking forward to seeing your rebuilt About pages. If you need opinions, I'm certainly available in the Facebook community. In the meantime, I'm going to dash off and start preparing the fourth and final video here in Brickhouse Branding. I'm Leila Barker for Lucky Break Consulting. Keep working. You're doing great. Thanks.